Nitin, thanks for joining us today. I think everybody's really excited to hear what you and the Mondelez teams have been working on. And so to start the interview, we'd love for you to just introduce yourself and the background on some of the interesting projects you've been working on.
Sure, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me, John. Myself, Nitin Gupta. I come with 15 years of experience working in enterprise companies, especially in AI, data analytics, and have worked across companies like IBM, General Electric, Gap Inc., TransUnion, and currently it's Mondelez. So I've cut across different verticals, be it CPG, manufacturing, energy, and retail.
Awesome. And before we get into it, have there been any really exciting projects or initiatives that you guys have rolled out recently that you'd like to bring people up to speed on?
Sure, I think we are in the era of AI. Everyone is talking about it. Of course, we are sticking a bit more towards foundational AI, making use of traditional AI ML models because we see more value, which is immediately can be arrived from there. But yeah, of course, we are also doing some Gen AI POCs as well and moving them into production. So we see value in both of them and currently working on either.
Awesome.
Breakout session starting
And
in a few minutes. Please join us.
And as we think about, one of the things that people are really interested in learning more about is there's a lot of companies doing POCs and they're starting to see the very early stages of what successful AI deployments can look like, but a lot of people are wondering, how do I effectively roll this into production and what do I need to be worrying about?
That's a great question. And I see in one of the studies, 85% of the Gen AI POCs, they don't see the face of inner production. And I think a lot of startups and a lot of companies or even enterprise companies, when they talk about Gen AI POCs going into production, they face some of the other foundational challenges. And we have been through the same journey as well. So in order to ensure that we don't get stuck into those kind of pieces, we have set up an AI council which do a thorough process to vet out all kinds of use cases, which may be Gen AI use cases or traditional AI use cases, and what ROI they are going to bring into place. And then we have a design authority team, which actually sees, be it from an architecture perspective, be it from a legal perspective, security, compliance, those aspects are there. So we have representatives, from each of these, and they thoroughly vet a particular, use case before we even enter into a POC. Sometimes we have to accelerate and move faster, and that's when we started directly with a POC. But then we do face certain hurdles, right? I mean, for example, the models can hallucinate a lot, right? Something which is working quite well in a POC stage may not work that well, when we are actually moving to production. So having beta testers, beta users, to validate that, having the right feedbacks is very, very important. And we are seeing that, okay, if those challenges are addressed, the journey would become smoother, when we are actually in a production world for a Gen AI use case, especially.
That's great to hear. And I think you mentioned a few of the users. A lot of times when we hear about AI councils, one of the really important things is to bring people in that are outside of the technology org. You mentioned security and legal. Who are some of those other key stakeholders that sit on your AI council, and what are the things they're typically concerned with?
So I think the number one biggest concern is what is the business value, right? What is your TCO, out of this investment, the ROI that you're going to have? Because if it is not giving or generating that much value to it, we don't want to just go by the hype that okay, the Gen AI use case or an AI use case is going to be instrumental in bringing in some substantial value.
Yep.
So hence vetting that is very, very important, and then we have senior leaders who vet that process first. That okay, a particular use case does provide that kind of a value, and we have to explain it to them, right?
Yep.
Something might be that it is more foundational, right? It might solve certain technical aspects as well. So if those if both are seen as a valuable information, that's when we proceed with that kind of a use case. Otherwise, we have to put it on and park it and move to some other use case.
Yeah, awesome. And I think getting these projects and getting early buy-in is really interesting. Yeah. Another thing that I constantly hear about is concerns about the risks of scaling. I know you have some particular expertise in monitoring for and resolving hallucinations as you're moving into production. I think that's a really relevant area people would like to hear more about.
Sure. So I think in order to handle hallucinations, what we have seen is during POC mode, the models worked out pretty well. They gave very good results. When we expanded it and added more and more beta users towards it, it started giving some kind of hallucinated answers. And hence what is important and what we did was apart from just using RAG, we also brought in business rules in place so that even if the model starts to give or generate certain answers on its own, that has to be backed up and guarded by the business rules first and business concepts. So hence those users, the beta users, they thoroughly check that piece before we even venture into providing that answer to an end user. And apart from that, what we have done is we have provided some kind of feedback loops as well to these beta users and on front end, so that the end users can also validate those results and give it back to the model, so that the next time it improves further.
Yep.
So intent-based reasoning, so providing those kind of segmentations of which model should be picked up, or what should it be, like a reasoning model, should it be like a summarization model, or should it do a classification? Based on the kind of intent of the question, we have put in those kind of guardrails so that the right answer gets picked up and hallucination is minimized through that.
That's great to hear. And kind of as you're helping people work through some of these challenges, what are some of like the tools and monitoring techniques you're using to identify, is it a hallucination, is it a valid answer, and really be able to tell the difference between the two of those?
So I think mostly what we are doing is we have like human in the loop. That's what we are mostly working on. We are also evaluating what other infrastructure companies and product-based companies are offering. Like Databricks, recently reached out to us that they have got like certain things for model evaluation and comparison of results. So we are also learning as the industry is learning to see what works out best for our case.
Cool. And then obviously a lot of this GenAI workloads and these next-gen use cases, they rely heavily on user data to be successful. How are you guys navigating as a global multinational, this complex and changing framework of legal regulations, internal compliance policies, and so forth?
Sure, so for this, maybe I'll take an example from my previous company. I was working for TransUnion. So as like financial companies, they have to have, the right kind of compliance checks in place, right? Because they are such a regulated, industry. And especially when you are working in a global setting, you have to ensure that for that particular region, right compliance checks are placed, right? GDPR compliance, HIPAA compliance, you have different compliance, which each of the regions and countries are putting in, especially for AI use cases. So we have to ensure that there is a proper AI governance team which is established, and they ensure that whatever are the current policies which the government has put forward, we adhere to those policies. Of course, PII information, PHI information, we anonymize that before we even get into any kind of use case development. And from a protection perspective, we try to restrict anything which is that particular region specific. It should reside in that particular cloud. If something is like very crucial and that should not even go into a cloud, we try to have like a hybrid structure, like an on-prem and virtual private cloud to take care of those confidential information.
Awesome. And one last question, just looking at, we talked previously about transparency and trust. How do you balance end user transparency and trust with delivering business value in your projects?
Sure, so I see it like as two kinds of end users. One is a customer user, which may be like retailers in our case. Second is an end consumer or end user, which if I pick from TransUnion, those are the end users like us, who extract or make use of the credit bureau reports. So for either of the two, it's very important that the trust becomes the foundation of any AI project that you build. So we ensure transparency from day one. We try to make our models more and more explicit and explainable, so that if there are any kind of concerns or questions which are asked, we already have a backup in terms of explainable results and answers, so that those concerns are addressed. And we do see from time to time that there is fairness and ethical standards being followed. I mean, Microsoft has a very good fairness to ensure that AI fairness is there. They have a governance framework for that. So we try to adopt what industry is also moving towards, that kind of a framework to increase the trust of our end users.
Cool.
So that's like part of our foundations of any use case that we are building these days. Yep.
Perfect. Nitin, really appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Nice pleasure
talk
talking
soon.
to you. Thank you so much.